attempt to share a word. Time and the setting does not allow me to do a complete exegesis of this text, but if I can just share a word with you concerning that fourth verse, I want to talk to you about in the valley with God. In the valley with God. Life does not always appear to be fair to us. Life has its many turns, its many curves. Life often carries us into places that are uncomfortable, in places that we've never been before. Elder Warr, the Warr family, you've never been here before. You're in a place today you've never been before. Sometimes life takes us into uncharted waters without a lifeboat or a life raft, without a life jacket. Life can be like an out-of-control freight train. Life can be like a roller coaster. Anybody ever been on a roller coaster? A roller coaster takes you up and it takes you down. Sometimes it's such a sensation that you wonder, how long is this ride going to last? Sometimes you're excited to get on the ride, but God knows you're happy to come off of it. Sometimes life is like that. A roller coaster takes you to peaks, high places. Somebody say high places. High places. But then also in those high places, it's a journey that makes you feel like you're on top of the world. But then life also has its innate ability to take you into low places. And those low places, rather than you feeling like you're on top of the world, sometimes it feels like the world is on top of you. Yes, that's that valley experience. And we all have them, those valley experiences. It seems that at times that during our valley experiences that we're there all by ourselves. But if you have a covenant with God, I've got some good news. Yes, sir. While you travel through your valley. All right, sir. If in fact you have a covenant with God, God will never take you into the valley except he be there waiting on you. I don't hear nobody talking here. If y'all pray with me for a few minutes, I'm almost through. Yes, the valley is a place that is not looked upon with favor in many cases. But if our relationship is solid with God, in other words, if we've been born again, if we've been washed in his blood, oh, I wish I had a praying church. If we've been renewed by his spirit, if we've been redeemed of the Holy Ghost, then we can go through our valley knowing that I'm just traversing through this spot. And that I'm coming out of this valley, but while I'm in the valley, I'm in the valley with God. It's all right to be in a bad place if you got some help. It's all right to be in a difficult spot if you know you got some help. It's all right to go into a fight. I'm from a family of 10 children, 5 boys and 5 girls, and when we were younger, we fought every now and then. But other folk outside of us, if they jumped on one of us, they jumped on everybody. And I could talk bad out there because I knew I wasn't in this fight by myself. Can I get a witness? Now, if I was the only child, I'd be wondering, do I have any help? But since when I'm in the valley, I've got some good help. God is my help in the valley. And since you are not in the valley by yourself, Let me tell you why you're not there. Can I tell you? Somebody say, tell us. Come on, somebody say, tell us. And since y'all sound like y'all begging, let me tell you. Since I understand that I'm not in the valley by myself, why? Because God is with me in the valley. Not only is God with me in the valley, but God took me into the valley. And since God took me into the valley, God's going to bring me out of the valley. In the valley with God, it makes a difference who you go in the fight with. Some folk you don't want to be on your side because they're not going to help you. When the heat gets turned up in the kitchen, they're running out. But in the valley with God, I don't care how much the heat gets turned up, God is going to be on our side. For he's on the side of the righteous. For he knows the way that I take. Yes, sir. Yes. Psalms, let me talk here for a moment. Psalms, which comes to us as one of the most beautiful books in this whole text. For Psalms written to us from the land of Palestine and Babylon, somewhere around 1500, 1000 BC. It was written to us primarily by David. And yet Psalms has about 8 or 9 different writers, but David was the majority writer of at least 73 of these Psalms. It was this Psalms that was compiled and put together, believed to be by Ezra, as he brought the present form into existence. Psalms is filled with metaphoric descriptions of God's relationship to his created universe and man. David in the 23rd Psalms, under the metaphor borrowed from Jesus, from the scenes of pastoral life, which David was familiar with. He describes God's providential care. He describes it as providing refreshment, guidance, and protection. He describes it as the abundance, and so affording us the ability to have strength in the time of weakness. He describes God's perpetual favor towards his flock, even in the midst of trials and temptations and tribulation. In the midst of discouragement, discomfort, and discombobulation, the Lord is always there. David says he is my shepherd. To be my shepherd means he's my provider. To be my shepherd means he's my overseer. To be my shepherd means that he's the one who rescues me in the time of trouble. To be my shepherd means that he also corrects me when I'm wrong. To be my shepherd means that I'm going to be right there for you in the time of your greatest need. And sometimes our greatest need is when we're going through the valley. Tell somebody you can make it through the valley. Come on, tell them you can make it through the valley if God is with you. When the psalmist speaks of the valley of the shadow of death, he laments of the most severe and terrible affliction or dark dispensation of providence. David speaks of the dark, dreary, and difficult days. The valley is disconcerting and deafening, and the valley sometimes brings us a sense of fruitlessness and lostness and loneliness. But perhaps the most terrifying and horrifying time in the valley is when the shadow of death appears. Difficult time, terrifying time. But remember, when the shadow of death appears, that is only a shadow. Yes, sir. It's only a shadow. The shadow of a serpent can't sting you. Yes, sir. Y'all not talking to me. Yes, sir. The shadow of a bullet can't kill you. The shadow of a giant can't slay you because it's only a shadow. So David says, when I'm in the shadow of death, but the shadow can cause terror. Yes, it can. You walk in your house and you see a shadow, it'll cause your heart to palpitate. Yeah, the shadow can upset you. The shadow can drive your blood pressure Shadow can make you run when nobody's behind. The shadow. 2 years ago, he said, the shadow knows. Only the shadow knows. So the shadow can bring terror into the life of many. But I'm here to tell you, like it was President Delano Roosevelt during the early days of World War II, he says we have nothing to fear but fear itself. So don't fear the shadow. Don't fear the shadow. Because God has promised and Jesus has declared, listen, I will be with you all the way, even to the end of the world. So don't fear the shadow. If God is with us, we can make it beyond the shadow. Let me deal with 3 quick points and be out of your way. About in the shadow or in the valley. In the valley, there are shadows, many shadows. And in fact, the reason why shadows appear is because someone has blocked the light. The light has been interfered with. Otherwise, there'd be no shadow. So if you really want to make it through the valley, find out where the light is. Y'all not with me here. If you find the light, the shadow will disappear. And I believe that Jesus is that light. He declared, I am the light of the world. So if, in fact, you're here in the valley and the darkness appears, I encourage you to seek the light. Jesus is the light. So number 1, don't fear the shadow. Number 2, remember, you're walking through the valley. Look at how David puts this in his words. He says, though I walk through the valley and the shadow of death. Note what David says here. He says, I'm not here to stay. I'm not here. I'm not here to stay. I'm not here. I didn't pack a lunch. Y'all not talking to me. I didn't pack a suitcase. I didn't overload myself. I'm walking through. I'm going through the valley. He says, though I walk through the valley. So remember, number 2 is that you're on the move. Tell somebody I'm on the move. Tell them I'm not going to stay where I'm at today. Always. And so therefore, he says, I'm walking through the valley. And as you walk through the valley, that's significant because that means you're on the march. That means you're going somewhere. Is there anybody in this house that's on their way somewhere? Sister Betty, she walked through the valley. She was on her way somewhere. Somebody said, I'm on my way to meet the king. Listen, I may be in the valley, but the king is waiting on me. And on my way to meet the king, I've got to go through some difficult times. Got to go through some difficult days. I've got to traverse through the valley. But listen, when I get through the valley, on the other side of the valley is just what I need. Yes, I'm walking through the valley. That means I'm on the march. And since I'm on the march, I heard the same writer say, listen, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. And he delighteth in his way. Though he shall fall, he shall not utterly be cast down. The Lord will uphold him with his hand. So while I'm in the valley, I may trip, I may stumble, but listen, God has my back. God has my hand, and therefore he's going to lift me up and allow me to march on through the valley. I'm walking through the valley. I'm not there to stay. Listen, I'm on a trip. In other words, what I'm going through right now is simply seasonal. Seasonal. That means this too. That means this too shall pass. That means I'm not always going to be under that cloud because I'm in the valley. Valley is a trip that most of us don't want to take. Because in the valley, there may be some poisonous snakes. There may be some vipers and some pit bulls. And y'all not talking to me here. There may be some sharp rocks to cut myself on. There may be some other difficult things, but let me tell you something. There's also some good things in the valley. In the valley, you can find courage. In the valley. In the valley, you can find patience. Oh, I was acting preaching today. In the valley, you can find special prayer time. You know, something about going through valley experiences that'll make you pray. It'll make you fall down on your knees. But as I move through this valley, I'm headed somewhere. Somebody say, well, where are you going to? Well, I'm on my way to see the King. And sometimes there's roadblocks in the way. Sometimes there's difficult days and difficult hours and sickness and pain and drudgery. But when I get through going through my valley-like experience, I've got a feeling that everything is going to be all right. Why? Because I'm going through the valley. And since I'm going through, I'm not in the valley by myself. God himself is with me in my valley experience. Yes, he's there when the sun is shining. And he's there when the rain is falling. He's there when folks say you'll never make it. But as long as God is with me, I can have strength in my weakest hour. I heard the word say, though I'm weak, thou art strong. So in the valley with God, remember that it was God who caused you to go through the valley. And it would never have taken you to a place that it could not find you. He'll never take you to a place that he couldn't bring you out of. He'll never take you to a place where he'll leave you all by yourself. Matter of fact, he don't go with you in the valley, but he's already there when you get there. And the reason I know he's there, because before you find yourself in trouble, God will already be in your trouble in order to bring you out of your trouble. So I may be in the valley, but God is already there. God understands my travel. God understands what I'm going through. God understands my hurt and my pain. I'm here to tell the church today, and especially this family, while you're going through the valley, don't throw in the towel. Understand God is with you. He took you into the valley and he's going to walk with you through the valley. But when you come out, he's going to put a new song upon your lips. When you come out, he's going to put clapping in your hands. When you come out, he's going to put dancing in your feet. In the valley, but I'm not by myself. I'm hurting, but I'm not by myself. I don't confuse, but I'm not by myself. For God, I said, God is in this valley. Say yes. Clap your hand and say yes. Tell somebody, neighbor, don't quit in the valley. Tell them don't give up in the valley. Tell them don't throw in the towel in the valley. Tell them God is with you. Shake your neighbor by the hand, say, neighbor. Come on, give them some encouragement here. Say, neighbor, you may be in the valley. You may be going through. You may be hurting. You may be disappointed. You may be confused. But God is with you. You can make it. Come on, tell him you can make it. Tell him you can make it through this valley. Tell him after a while, it's all gonna be over. Tell him after a while, the sun gonna shine. Tell him after a while, the dark clouds are gonna pass over. Tell him I'm coming out of this valley. I'm coming out of this disappointment. I'm coming out of this trouble. And when I come out, I'm gonna sing a new song. While I gotta go through this, it don't seem like it's fair. It don't seem like it should happen. But understand this, God will never put more on you than you can bear. Wait a minute, I need to change that theology. Sometimes he'll put more on us than we can seem to bear. But the truth is, he'll never put more on us than he can bear. And he'll carry you through your valleys. He'll carry you through your storms. He'll carry you through every trial, every tribulation. Even in the shadows of death, he's right there. Say yes. Clap your hand and say yeah, yeah, yeah. Tell somebody, say, I'm coming out. Say, look at me now. Come on, tell somebody, look at me now. Tell them, look at me now. Tell them I may not look like much. I'm in the valley, but I'm coming out. And when I come out, I'm going to sing a new song. When I come out, I'm going to run for Jesus. When I come out, I'm going to tell the world it was he who brought me out of the miry clay. He set my feet upon a rock to stay. He brought me out. Say yes. Clap your hand and say yes. Tell your neighbor, listen. Come on, tell them, listen. The valley is not always good. But if you can make it through the valley, tell them if you can make it through the valley. Elder Warr, if you can make it through this. Warr family, if you can make it through this. Friends and relatives, if you can make it through this. There is a brighter day ahead. There is hope for tomorrow. There is a new horizon. If you believe it, say yes.
Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. All I want to be. I want those of you that's sitting in the overflow to please stand. I want some men of First Church to go and set the tables up in there real quick, in a hurry. Family, you will go directly into the fellowship hall. You go directly into the fellowship hall. All others remain seated until the family is on the other side. Is that all right?